My friends, welcome to the second to last part 19 of the Chris and Alec Benson Leary phone call series. Y'all already know what it is. The Discord's down below, the Twitch is down below. Every part of this phone call I've already done is down below, as well as the unedited, the full version of it. That's down there too. Now, where we left off last week, Chris was trying to get Alec again on the copyright stuff, not realizing that he holds no rights to these copyrighted characters that he thinks he does. He's talking about how, Simone LaRose Chew and all this is his own creation, even though he stole it from Evan. Basically just lying about everything like he's been doing this whole call. But now we're finally getting to the climax of this, where it's the final time Chris and Alec speak, at least recorded. Well, it's the last time Chris and Alec speak. Alec talks to Chris again in the Lars call, but under the name Lars. Because if you didn't know, that's Alec in that call. I always have to bring that up because so many people seemingly don't. But enough with all that. Let's just jump right back into it and see where we left off. Enjoy, guys.
Because you drew him in your pages without my consent, and then made him look like he could look like a homosexual or appear as such.
Why does anything that I do have anything at all to do with how you treat Evan and his property? Why do you want to punish one person for a wrong that you perceive another unrelated person doing? I am not Evan. Evan is not me.
See, this is one of the things that has to be a really infuriating part about going back and forth with Chris, because every time Alec brings up, why did you think it was okay to steal Simone from Evan? Chris just responds with, well, you took Sonichu from me in a sense. And that's why Alec keeps bringing up that this is your beef with Evan. Why do you keep bringing it back to me and Sonichu? I have nothing to do with that situation. I'm not that guy. And Chris is just, I assume he thinks, oh, well, they're friends, so I'll do wrong to this guy because I feel this guy did wrong to me. Nonetheless, it's just still ridiculous how serious and how far Chris took it just to keep this one character in his comic who was like completely insignificant, didn't mean nothing, was really just there in the crowd. But to Chris, this Simone LaRose Chew was everything, because it's something he still does now, and we talk about it in almost every episode of these. But he saw these characters as like his real life friends. Like once he graduated high school, he went right to the Sonichu world and just buddied up with all these guys, and that was his life. It's a sad reality that Chris lives in, but it's also a reality that doesn't exist, because the reality that he lives in is just one made up in his head, and he's never gotten out of it still to this day.
Chris, God damn it, Chris. Okay, this is just like, remember when you were complaining about how, the trolls and ED attack you, and you used that as an excuse for why you treat me like shit? Why do you think it's okay to treat some random person like shit just because you've been treated badly by other people that aren't related?
It was, to correct you, it is not. I did not do it on a random person, quote unquote. I actually had reasons to do it against you and your crew.
See, I think in his head, Chris thinks, well, I'm going to take Simone LaRose Chew and not credit Evan because I don't like him, He's trying to get back at Evan. But the way he's going about doing it is just something that trolls are going to be able to use as so much ammo against him. And it's that instead of just calling this guy out and being like, hey, buddy, I don't like you, even though he does, what he's doing is trying to, act like he never took the character from him, act like it's a completely new character that he's written in the comic, the Sandy character that's just the same thing as Simone. Chris is thinking, that's how I'll get back at him. I'll just act like he never even did anything, and that'll show him. When it's like, no, Chris, people, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all.
I asked you why you stole something from Evan, which happened a long time ago, as I understand, actually, well before I created Asperchew. And your response is that, because of something I draw.
Well, I'm just saying that was.
If I remember right,
why I didn't care for what you did very much, and that was what you did there.
Chris, when someone asks you a question, it's polite to respond with an answer that is relevant to the question. When I asked you why you think it's okay to steal Simon Chew from Evan, please don't respond by, going off on some unrelated tangent about how you don't like me.
See, Alec is basically asking Chris to do the impossible right there. Chris can't follow along with the shit Alec is saying no matter what. This whole conversation, we brought it up, that Chris, one thing goes in one ear, one thing goes right out the other. He's not following this guy at all. But that's his only way of a rebuttal. That's his only way he can respond, is by more attacks towards Alec, just because he perceives that Alec is attacking him with all this stuff he's talking about regarding Evan. He talks about how, Chris, you stole Simon's shoe, and instead of admitting it because he actually did it, he is simply going to look at what he doesn't like about Alec and respond accordingly, as if Alec was calling him, telling him he had a Buddha belly and all this stuff. But it's something that, like I said, I've been bringing this up, and at this point in the calls, we're just kind of harkening back to everything we've already brought up, because his calls do get a bit repetitive. But you can see that the guy who is, playing Alec, at this point, he's just like, Chris, dude, just say that, just listen, say the right thing, and Chris can't. He really can't. He'll never be able to follow along with this conversation. But that's the thing though. When he looks at Evan, when he looks at Sean, when he looks at Mal, when he looks at Alec, they're all basically the same entity to him. If one of them screws him, they all screwed him. That's why he drew all of them getting blown apart in that Sonichu comic. He does not like Alec here. It may sound pretty cordial, but deep down inside, Chris is just stomping his feet and stewing right now.
Okay. Now, if I remember right, on that Simon Shoe article before you doctored it to make it look differently, it said that it was in August of 2008 that you quote unquote created Simona. That's a long time. That's over a year before I created Asperchew. I created Asperchew, not even 3 months ago.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Well, let's think about that a moment so I can properly answer the question about the quote-unquote character theft.
Yep, see, that right there. Chris, he needed to sit there and think. He needed to, really wrap his mind around the topic they were talking about. That's why there was such a pause around, well, I need to sit here and answer accordingly to the character theft, not bringing up, once again, he's missing the point again. Now Alec is asking Chris to acknowledge the fact that he changed the article that was written about Simonla, because this was brought up in the first couple calls we listened to, because Chris had written there that, this guy, Evan, had given him this inspiration about this character, and, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. But then Chris, when he got mad about this and wanted to go change it, he just wanted to change it to, I made this character myself, and that's what he edited it to. And in his mind, that was enough to get people to go, well, I guess that Evan guy never did anything, did they? But Alec brings up to Chris that, he started Sonichu much after the fact that, this character and all came around and all that shit. So it's just, it doesn't make sense to use Asperchew as an excuse here when this is something Chris did himself and admitted years ago. But Chris, he just wants to sweep it under the rug, forget it even happened, and let's just get real quiet and think about this thing so that Alec eventually says something else and gets onto another topic, because he doesn't have an answer for this.
You know what? I don't really want to go over whether you think stealing Simon Chu is right or wrong or not, because we've done that before, and I was fooled. I thought that I had gotten some kind of response out of you, which turned out to be a complete lie, because you to this day still believe that Simonla is yours and everyone else is evil.
And it would be pointless to go over this again, because they've gotten to the point where Chris apologized for it, says that he understands what he did was wrong, yada, yada, yada. And then when Alec presses him on it again, but uses different words, Chris will then just completely fold and be like, oh yeah, well that is my character, and Evan stole from me, shit like that. He'll always fall back on these things. So at this point, like I said, the guy playing Alec is just like, all right, let's just cut it, because we're not even going to go over this again. We know it's going to happen. The runaround has happened about 10 times already.
I just want to know why you think that you're perfect and that everyone else who has a disagreement with you is automatically wrong.
Well, to correct you, I never thought that I was perfect. I am imperfect for
You still think you're better
for a
than...
few reasons.
You still think you're better than
One of which is definitely
everyone
the
else.
high-functioning autism.
Well, what the hell does autism have to do with you being a bad person?
No, I was just saying that that's one reason why I'm not perfect.
So if not for autism, you think you would be perfect? Do you really think autism is your only flaw? I don't think
I have a lot of other flaws. I know that.
Yeah, I don't think autism of all your
But
flaws,
I'm just
Chris,
saying,
I don't think autism is even on the radar.
that is one of my flaws that makes me not perfect. I am not perfect. I never said that. I mean, I have never said that I was perfect.
You imply it by suggesting that Evan and I are evil people who made you kill Simonla because she was yours. You don't even... Oh, God, okay, now I'm really pissed off, Chris.
Yeah, all right, relax, Alec, you friggin' dork. Like, you're arguing about Sonichu characters with Chris Chan. Like, stop, you shouldn't be getting this pissed off. Nonetheless, when Chris says that, or Alec says, that, Chris thinks he's perfect and all that, and Chris says that he doesn't, and, it's, he's naming his flaws and all that, Alec's example there of why Chris thinks he's perfect because he makes Alec and Evan out to be evil, I don't think that's a good example, but a good example of how Chris thinks he's perfect is to look at him and his characters in the Sonichu comics, because he draws them with no flaws, they're all perfect beings. And to be fair, you could say this does bleed over into real life, because as Chris says there, one of the only flaws he can openly admit is his autism. The one thing that's really not a flaw and something he can't help, that's the thing that he looks at as like, oh man, if that was different, I'd be golden right now. He can't think of one other reason, his homophobia, the fact of how creepy he is around women, his diet, any of these things, they're not flaws. The one flaw is, he doesn't look at the fact he's never had a job other than that one Wendy's gig and the Cutco gig, but none of them things are flaws, and they come to his mind. Like, it's amazing that it took him that long to be like, I guess I can't think about anything. But the characters he draws in the comic, they're perfect to him, and I think the comics are a window into how Chris sees real life. So if you want to argue it, I guess you could say that Chris, he sees himself as the comic version of himself, so he probably does see himself as like that svelte, good-looking dude in the comics. Like, that it really doesn't work for Chris in the real world, because he doesn't look like that in the real world.
I'm mad at you, because why... How many years have you been pissing and moaning at people about your copyrights, your precious Sonichu copyright, but you don't give a shit about Evan's copyright or my copyright or anyone else? You just take whatever you want, and you act like you're in the right by doing so. Why do you do that?
I do that.
You have no response, do you?
I'm thinking. Can I think? Sometimes my mind's a little slow.
Yeah, it's painful sometimes to watch Chris in these situations because he really has no earthly idea of what's going on here. It's such a simple question as to, Chris, you always take characters from any piece of pop culture you like and put them in your own comics. Like, why isn't that a big deal? And Chris, he's silent. He can't think of anything for this. After years of, calling out any single person who used his characters and flipping out about it, he genuinely can't come up with a reason as to why it's only okay for him to do so. And that's because it's so wild knowing that his brain really worked like that. It's not the autism, throw the autism aside. It's the fact that he's so egotistical as to think like, I know I'm right. Like, in his head, he's like, I know I'm right, but I can't tell this guy how I'm right. And yes, his mind does move slow, and that's back to the autism part probably. But just goddamn, man, he's lost. Like, he's absolutely lost on this. And it's one of those things where you hear this, and you hear someone over the phone asking him this, and he knows he doesn't have to come up with an answer if he doesn't want to, which he doesn't want to. But it's like, imagine this for some stroke of, like, weird luck back in the day. Miyamoto and them really did see Sonichu and were like, no, take that man to court. Putting Chris up on... could you imagine the questioning that would have been done and the answers Chris would have given? It would have just been like, well... Miyamoto over here shouldn't be taking me out of my work and making me come here when I could be giving all my fans Sonichu. And he'd think he's so confident, and they'd just be like, you can't use Sonichu. And he'd just be like, let me think about that one.
You've had, like, how many years of, worrying about copyright? I would think you would be a master of copyright law by now, considering how important it is to you. I mean, I think you would know copyright laws backward and forward.
I am not as knowledgeable as a copyright lawyer.
Chris, let's change the subject a little bit. What's up with that your Christian Love Day video?
Because it was my birthday, and I was just making a stand against the trolls and the internet bullies.
What stand?
I'm not gonna be pressed down by the likes of which, and I'm going to continue on.
No matter who it is or when they say it, it's always funny to hear a locale say, I'm finally taking a stand, or I'm finally walking away from all this trolling and all that, because you know what happened with Chris in the 10 years following this, and you know what happens to every locale when they say this. They think they're making a big dent, they think they're really showing it to all these people, but in actuality, they still got a lot more trolling coming their way. And when Chris tries to say this, like, it's just one of those things where the stand he tries to make, it's not against people who are really trolling him, it's against the people who are asking him, like, questions in the mailbag that he doesn't like, questions that are completely understandable, but to Chris are just absolutely no-goes. But now it's time to talk about Christian Love Day. Chris's made-up holiday that takes place on his birthday, and if you've never heard about Christian Love Day, which I assume most of you already listening to this have, just wait to hear Chris's explanation of it, because he tries to make it out to sound like it's something for other people, it's something for people to enjoy, when it's really just a reason to consider his birthday a national holiday with his name on it so that people like him. He literally just wants, like, everything given to him. He wants to be looked at as, like, a perfect godly being, and it's amazing when you think of the fucking things how he looks at himself nowadays. He may have been looking at himself like that for years, but now, as he's behind this jail cell and has nothing else to do, it's finally time for those emotions to come out. That's just speculation, though. It's probably not true, but it's something funny to think about. Nonetheless, let's get back to Christian Love Day and hear how Chris and Alec go at it about it.
You kind of just... I recognize that speech you used. You just took that from Independence Day.
What?
You took that speech from... Chris, that speech that we will not go down without a fight speech, that was like lifted directly from Independence Day. You remember that movie?
Well, I remember that movie. I saw it only once, and I did not know that those lines came from that. That speech was actually written by a friend of mine.
So you can't even write your own speech?
I can write my own speech. But I let my friend do it for me.
I genuinely believe the shock in Chris's voice when he hears that the speech he gave was lifted directly from Independence Day is genuine, because I guarantee you a troll who Chris thought was his friend said, "Hey Chris, I know a way you can get back at these trolls and a way you can make Christian Love Day sound legit. I'll write you this speech." And Chris was just like, "Wow, thank you so much. Can I just call this my own?" And, it just right there when Alec brings it up to him is probably the first time he heard it, because even if he was, like, putting that on YouTube, which he did at the time, and people probably commented on the video telling him that it was from Independence Day, which they probably did at the time, Chris was not looking at that, because that's one thing that Chris has always done. He'll post videos on YouTube, never once look at the comments, because he knows the comments are just going to be telling him off and telling him that he's wrong. But to Chris, just peaceful, blissful ignorance, and that's all that matters. Just act like they're not even there.
Well, why do you think that your birthday should be a holiday in the first place?
Well, one point it is a holiday in Mexico. So it should be an equally important holiday in America.
It's Mexican Flag Day in Mexico. Mexico has, I don't know what, like 40 million citizens, something like that. So are you really saying that, Mexican Flag Day is no more important than your birthday? Should 40 million Americans or more be celebrating your birthday?
I am not saying that.
You said that your birthday should be of equal
I'm just
importance to
saying-
Mexican Flag Day. Oh, I was wrong. I just looked it up. Actually, Mexico is like 110 million people. I was way off. Okay, so your birthday is more important than 110 million Mexicans.
I never said that.
That's exactly how you said it, Chris. You 100% said it like that, but the thing is, you said it in a way that was very vague and kind of brushed off any serious talk about it. You just said, oh, it should be equally as important here, leaving that as a blanket statement. No one should question that. And then you see it's Mexico's Flag Day, and Chris assumes that, we should have that as equal importance here in America. It's kind of like how on the 4th of July, Zimbabwe goes crazy for us. It's how it should happen, But no, it's so obvious. It's so obvious that he didn't expect to get pressed on this, and now that he's like, well, no, I didn't say that. I don't mean that. When that's exactly what he means, because if he could just erase Mexican Flag Day from history, he'd be like, all right, cool, let's just put my birthday right in there. And all of Mexico can celebrate me instead, because, my birthday, that's where the real importance is at, my friends.
And I never said that everybody should celebrate my birthday on that day.
Chris, your first response when I asked you, like 90 seconds ago, I asked you, why should your birthday be a holiday? And you said, well, it's a holiday in Mexico, therefore it should be of equal importance in America. That is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And that's what you're thinking. You think that Mexican Flag Day is just not even good enough, right?
Well, it can be better.
It can be better. It's a day for 110 million Mexicans to celebrate the freedom of their country.
And that celebration could be accepted in America.
Well, why? Why would Americans celebrate Mexico's history? Americans have the 4th of July. That's when we celebrate our history. We have Flag Day, too. It's like June 16th, I think.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, so we already have a Flag Day.
But still, I mean, we have the Mexicans in America.
And I'm sure they can celebrate Flag Day.
Yeah. So
yeah.
we should accept that and maybe celebrate as well in like a congratulatory way for them.
Well, then why wasn't your video about Mexican Flag Day instead of this made-up Christian Love Day?
One idea behind Christian Love Day is like the possibility of a second Valentine's Day.
It's like 10 days after the real Valentine's Day. Why would we need another Valentine so soon?
It's like we need more. It's like we need more reminders to love and care about each other.
Valentine's Day is a Hallmark holiday sponsored by corporations to sell shitty gift cards and disgusting fake sugar candies. It's not about love. It's just a stupid corporate holiday.
Jesus Christ, Alec is out here popping the bubble to every single one of Chris's points. And I genuinely think, personally, it's not just about Chris's ego. It's not just about the fact that he wants his birthday to be celebrated like a national holiday. Now, both of those things are definitely factors, but I think the real reason he wants this is because he wants to have a second Valentine's Day so he can try to get lucky. The first Valentine's Day, if he messes up, that's fine. We go back home, we plan again for the next 10 days, because he probably tried something like that once on Valentine's Day and didn't work, and he was like, man, I wish Valentine's Day was even sooner. And then as he sat there and pondered, it came to him, and he was just like, holy shit, Christian Love Day. I'm gonna get so laid.
If you really want to celebrate love, you can do it at any time. You don't need a holiday.
Just to help remind us to do so on a more constant basis.
Okay, so why your birthday? Why your birthday? Of all the days in the year, why would you choose your birthday for this particular holiday? Unless it was about celebrating yourself.
Because it feels right.
What do you mean it feels right?
It feels like a good day to celebrate something.
Yeah, like Mexican Flag Day.
Yeah.
Chris, just admit that you just want, you really think you're so important, that you're so saintly and perfect that you think your birthday should be a holiday. Just admit that to me.
Well, I am not saintly or perfect.
But you think that you're such an important person that your birthday should be a holiday. Admit it. It's about your ego.
I partially agree with you on that, but it's actually a lot more than just quote-unquote ego.
What more could it be?
I am not sure right now because I cannot come up with the appropriate answer for that.
Well then you shouldn't be trying to create a holiday. Chris, you shouldn't really be trying to do anything until after you've come up with a logical reason to do it.
Okay,
I mean,
countless
times I've asked you why you do things, and you fall back on, I'm not sure, it felt right, or you use your emotions as an excuse, like when you brutally murdered, me and Evan and Mal and Sean in your sham mock trial, because you were still angry about the ads.
See, that little moment where Chris slips up and goes, well, I'll partially admit that, but it's actually much more than just ego when referring to Christian Love Day. You can see that he finally, after all this time, he finally admits it. On the second to last part out of 20 parts, Chris finally admits that all of this is just about his fucking ego, that he really does see himself as such an important person that his own birthday should be a holiday. When you see that someone has that type of mindset, now the whole, I can take characters and put them in my comics, but you can't attitude, it kind of all starts to make sense now, right? Because Chris really does see himself as better than everybody, above everybody, and it's just so wild to think when you see the person Chris is and you know the person Chris is. And as you saw right there, Alec is now about to begin grilling him on the fact that he drew that terrible trial picture, the whole comic where all of them got killed. It was just a real mess up on Chris' part, but we're going to have to wait until another day, and that day will be in the next few days where we look at the final part of the Chris Chan and Alec Benson Leary phone call series, my friends. It has been a journey. It has been so much of this, so many parts of these. I can't believe we've gotten this far, but the next one is the last one, so I hope y'all are here to enjoy it, and I know I'm going to enjoy doing it too, because on one hand, I know it's going to be hilarious, and on the other hand, I'm getting a little tired of hearing Alec and Chris going back at it, so we can jump to the next thing in Christory that we decide to cover. So keep tuned for that, and keep tuned for part 20 tomorrow. I'm real excited for it, guys. I genuinely am. So, as always, I want to give shouts out to Vanessa, Club Doom, Cody Hale, the Ghostbusters fan, Scaly Schisms, Echo Spectre, Kaitan, the Night Owl, Pythea, Moochie, Grant M, Fiendland's Party Place, Churlish, Isaiah, Mick Surly, Trademark, Adrian Lara, Sky Fitzpatrick, Alright Stingy, Chris Chan's Fanta Bottle, Music Biz Marty's Bong, Cyrax's Stylus, Commander Louie, Brian 1, Akiba's Beat Fan, Gypsy Pauls, G-Man, Blake Austin, Vaga, and Justin S. You guys are goats, and all y'all who made it this far, you guys are goats as well. I want to thank you guys for always sticking through these videos and making it to the end, and just know it's always appreciated. It really is. So until I see you on the next one, have a safe rest of your day, my friends. Just chill out, relax, spark one up. Just have something nice to eat, something nice to drink. Just chill out and have a good day. And I'll see you on the next one.